Morning, or depending when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I am showing you around from Norwich Regional Championships. I went down to the lovely Athena Games in Norwich, one of my favourite venues in the UK, and I do not mind saying that out loud. Thank you to all the people down there. They made it super easy for us to record. They made us incredibly welcome, and I thank them for it. And I recorded a whole bunch of games from their regional championship, one of which you are seeing now. The format for this is expanded and breakpoint is legal, so the format here is from black and white all the way to breakpoint. We are playing 50 minutes best of 3 black and white to breakpoint, so sit yourselves down, grab yourselves a nice beverage, hot or cold, your choice, and enjoy this game from Norwich Regional Championships. 50 minutes best of 3 black and white to breakpoint. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we are in round 6 here, and on the left we have Adam Hawkins, and if you haven't watched the previous videos from this tournament, I suggest you do so because I'm about to spoil one. We saw Adam previously losing to John O'Cowley, who we actually saw reappear in the previous round. He is going to be playing Seismitoad Slowking. I'm going to be talking a little bit as if you've watched that video, so if you haven't seen that previous round with Adam, I suggest you go and do so. I believe it's round 3. Or round 4, because we'd also know round 3. And on the right, we have Nath Bramald, and he is going to be playing Yveltal. But as we can see there, he is playing the build of Yveltal with Archeops and Gallade. And actually, I should remind you, we saw an Yveltal build in the last round with Luke Burke. And I should also remind you that I did a video all about dark decks. Again, a link to all of these will be in the description of this video to make it very easy to find, but I suggest you go and check those bad boys out. So straight away he gets rid of an energy for Dark Patch, an N that he can grab back with the S-Seeker, and an Archeops. Now at this stage in the tournament, people know what each other is playing, especially around the top tables as we are. So make no mistake about it, Nath knows that Adam is going to be playing that Slowking. Nath does not want to come across that Slowking, so he's got that Archeops in the discard. He's going to try and get it back using Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick in the very near future. And if he can get that Archeops on the bench, then that means that he won't have to put up with that Slowking at any point throughout the entire game. He can turn that Slowking off, unless, of course, Adam plays a Hex Maniac. But playing a Hex Maniac as your supporter for the turn, just to turn off Archeops, won't work because Slowking is also ability based. So if Nath gets that Archeops out, Slowking isn't coming back into play unless the Archeops gets KO'd. Because like I say, even if Adam were to play a Hex Maniac to turn off Archeops, well, he could turn off Archeops and then evolve up to Slowking, but he couldn't use it. So I suppose he could turn off Archeops, then evolve up to Slowking, and then use him in subsequent turns, but you can see how awkward that would be for Adam. So something we see a lot in these games in Expanded, we've got a Caldeo on the bench. I thought I saw a Floatstone there, but he hasn't attached one yet. We've got an Yveltal in the active with an Energy and a Fighting Fury bout. There is that Floatstone. There goes a Darkrai. And we see a VS Seeker coming down to grab a Sycamore. Now, the one thing we've got to remember here is I'm talking about Nath using Archie's Ace in the hole to get that Archeops back. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Adam is playing a Trainer Lock deck. And if you don't get a turn 1, because you're always going to get one turn, because either Seismitoad goes first and can't attack, or Seismitoad goes second and you get a turn, you're always going to get a turn against Toad where you've got trainers. You've got to have a turn before they Quaking Punch. But if you can't get the Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick into Archeops on turn 1, as Nath has not, it becomes very, very difficult to get it out when you're under Trainer Lock. So we saw a Slowpoke get benched by Adam there, and we saw an Ultra Ball for a Hooper, grabbing a Keldeo, and presumably there's a Shaman in there as well, and maybe something like a second Toad. Of course, as we saw in Adam's previous game, bench space is at a premium in Adam's deck. Ideally, he wants a Slowking, or 2 Slowkings down, so that he can regularly go ahead, and there we do see a... Oh, so what he did there, he played a Puzzle of Time, and we see a big Juniper there. He played a Puzzle of Time to look at the top 3 cards of his deck to make it, to basically to see, is it worth playing my Shaman to draw these cards, or should I not play my Shaman? I don't really want my Shaman on the bench. Played the Puzzle of Time, saw he was going to get a Juniper, played the Shaman, drew the Juniper, played the Juniper. Now we see a Muscle Band on the Toad, but we don't see a DCE down yet, which is a huge problem because no DCE, no Quaking Punch, no Trainer Lock. Oh, and how gutting is that for Nath? He has Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick in his hand, but he also has a Juniper, and he can't play both. What he is going to be able to do here is get a fairly decent X-Ball. Not X-Ball, X-Ball's Mewtwo. Evil Ball. Evil Ball, remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's the one we tried to calculate last game with a little bit of difficulty. It happens occasionally. So we see a Battle Compressor coming down here, getting rid of a Hex Maniac, a Gallade, and I'm not entirely sure what that third card is. Some kind of full art card there. Might be a Shaman, not 100% sure. No, I don't think it was a Shaman. Now we see an Yveltal go down there. The difficulty here for Nath is going to be just keeping energy on the field. We saw this in the game where Adam played against Jono. Now, this is not such a bad matchup for Adam as the game against Jono was. So what Nath wants to do here is just get energy on the field as fast as he can and then just smash. So we saw him hit for 100 there because he's got that Reverse Valley in play, which does 10 more, well, it allows his Dark Pokemon to do 10 more damage. So he was doing 80 with the attack, plus 10 for the Fighting Fury bout, plus 10 for the Stadium. So we see a Juniper here from Adam, getting rid of an N, and it looked like a Jirachi, and we see the DCE there, but oh, and this is not good. Oh, okay, he's got the Slowking. Can he? If he hits the heads, this is huge. He does hit the heads. That is big. Oh. Yeah, it's quite big. It's pretty big. Here's the deal. That benched Yveltal now just needs an energy to attack, and because Nate's got the Caldeo Floatstone, he can rush in and retreat, get that Caldeo into the active. However, it was interesting how Adam moved the energy onto the Darkrai, not onto the Caldeo. One of the reasons I think for that could be that Darkrai's ability gives Caldeo free retreat if that Floatstone goes away, so he doesn't really want to put a Dark Energy on the Caldeo and give it free retreat without a Floatstone. So we do see free energy on that Yveltal, means he can do 60 to the active, 60 to a benched EX, which of course will be a Shaman. And now Adam is very much on the clock. Now this won't be a KO, it only puts Seismitoad up to 160. Oh, and he's choosing to do 60 to the bench Seismitoad. And you can see where he's going with this. If he KOs, gets this. There's a Dark Patch. And is that 2 Dark Patches? Oh, Trainer, although he hasn't got much of a hand there. So Adam here is going to want to try and get rid of his energy. There goes the Slowking flip. And it's 2 heads out of 2 here. Now he gets a DCE onto that Caldeo. Because what he's basically saying is, look, you can retreat that Caldeo with a DCE, assuming the Floatstone goes away at some point, but it's not helping you. I don't want to put that DCE. If I put it onto the Shaman, you can Sky Return and get it back in your hand. If I put it on the Yveltal, that really helps you. If I put it on the Darkrai, you now just need 1 Dark Energy for a Night Spear. So it's got to go on the Caldeo there. So we see another single Puzzle of Time. Look at the top 3 cards and rearrange them if you so wish. It is not what Puzzle of Time is designed for. Now, this is only going to do 30 damage, not 50, because remember, Yveltal EX's... Oh, Yveltal EX. Baby Yveltal, hey Nick. His ability is the Pokebody, whereby, as long as he's in the active, all tools on the field have no effect. So we see an energy going onto, and there's another... Reverse Valley. Was that a Parallel City? No, it must have been a Reverse Valley. So here, he's actually getting a KO with Caldeo. And that's a lovely little play. It's far from an ideal play. But he said, look, I've got the DC on the Caldeo. The only way I'm getting an attack here is with the Caldeo. So I'm going to pop a Dark Energy on Caldeo. I can then use Sacred Sword for 50. And as that... Toad's only got 20 HP left, that will be enough. So we do see a laser coming down here. It's only going to do 10 between turns by virtue of that Reverse Valley being in play rather than a Verbank City Gym. But it does mean that he's doing 50 damage here. And that Caldeo's poisoned. And of course, usually in such a situation, Nath would go, oh, my active Pokemon's poisoned. Not to worry, boys. I will just rush in and retreat and we will be good. But of course, that's not really a possibility here, given that the Caldeo's in the active. So, just getting some energy on the bench, and what he's doing here is he's not asleep. If Adam had hit heads on that sleep flip, that would have been pretty big. Nath just retreats the Caldeo, and then he uses Oblivion Wing for 30. And this is what you want to do against these energy denial decks. We saw this when in round 1 when Ollie Barnett played against an Yveltal deck. Excuse me, with Yveltal played against a Seismitoad Giratina deck. What you want to do is try and make sure that you've got enough. Oh, an Ultra Balling, a complete Slowking line there, a Slowpoke and a Slowking. You want to try and make sure that you've got enough energy on your field, and one of the ways you can do that is by using Baby Yveltal's Oblivion Wing, which does 30 damage and attaches a Dark Energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. Now we see that energy starting to build up on the Keldeo. We saw another heads on the Slowking flip there. It's doing well with Slowking flips. And we see Crushing Hammer. It's a Tails, unfortunately. And at this stage, that Caldeo's got enough energy to attack. It's got enough energy to retreat. And Adam's basically saying, look, that Caldeo's got a bunch of energy on, so you know what? I'm just going to keep piling energy on. And if you end up with a 7 energy Caldeo, and that is all the energy you've got on the field, then I think that's not a bad position for Adam to be. And I think Adam would happily go for that. So we see a Quaking Punch there for 40, 30 damage, plus 10 for the Fighting Fury belt. And this is not going to be a KO yet, unfortunately. Sacred Sword does 50 damage, plus 20 for each energy, for each water energy attached to. And there was Tails on a Crushing Hammer. Now, I think he flipped Tails on the Slowking. But you got to wonder what he actually wants here. I mean, where would he put that DCE? I mean, I suppose he would put the DCE on the Oblivion Wing Yveltal, maybe. But even then, it could potentially help to fuel an attack later on. So, there was no laser there from Adam, as we saw before. And that means that Nath is going to get a KO here. And it is going to be his second KO on a Toad. And does Adam have? Adam doesn't actually have a bench Toad right now. Oh, that was a nice play there. So he managed to get a third energy on that benched. He was able to get a third energy onto that other Yveltal. So we got to do 60 to the Toad and then got to do 60 to a bench Shaman. Now we see another head. Adam has been flipping well on those Slowkings. Not well on Crushing Hammers, but he's been flipping well on those Slowking flips this game. Now he's going to need a DCE for that Toad. He's going to be able to retreat that Caldeo. That's not an issue. Although he's got to discard. Is that his last that might be his last DCE. Although I think he's only used 2, not 4 puzzle of time. But if Nath's got an energy here, it's going to be all over. He can just use Pitch Black Spear to do 60 to the Toad, but more importantly, do 60 to the benched Shaman. So he's got to put the Caldeo in the active here. Partly he gets to do 50 damage by doing so, and partly because he can't afford to give up the energy on that bench, on that now benched Yveltal. So I've been saying Sacred Sword for Caldeo EX. I mean Secret Sword. Secret Sword. There has been attacks called Sacred Sword, if I remember correctly, but it's Secret Sword. I've said it wrong a couple of times. I'm sure a couple of you have already popped it in the comments, but just so you know, I've realised my mistake. It is Secret Sword, not Sacred Sword. Although, to be honest, if you say it fast enough, you're not going to know what I'm actually saying. Now, coin flips are starting to work for Adam here. He gets another heads on Slowking. And I've got to point out, he's had a few... I pointed out his bad luck in Jono's game. I've got to point out he's done quite well here. But this is a good turn. He puts the energy on Shaman and then gets a head ringer on there, so it will still take 2 energy for that Shaman just to do a 30 damage Sky return. He also plays a laser and gets a heads. This is a big sleep flip and he stays asleep. So that's going to be a KO. Now the problem is there's no Verbank City Gym. If there was a problem for Adam... If there was a Verbank City Gym in play, then that Caldea would actually die, or be KO'd, I should say, by poison damage going into Adam's turn, giving Adam the next hit on whatever came into the active. But there is no Verbank City Gym in play, so it just goes up to 160. So that Caldea is going to be knocked out from poison damage. Oh, turn too late. Adam would have loved... Oh, and this, okay, now this introduces an interesting dynamic into this game. That is the 3rd puzzle of time that Adam has played. That means there will be no double puzzle of time. Now, it could well be that one is prized, although he's about to take 2 prizes, so he could have waited. Anyway, and I'm fairly certain that we've seen 2 Toads go down, both had a DCE attached, with a DCE on the active Toad, and he had to use a DCE to retreat the Keldeo. That means he's on his last... Oh, and it's a moot point. I was going to say he could run out of DCEs if Nath were to hit a Zerosic to get rid of that DCE, but it's a completely moot point. Nath hits his own DCE, pops it on the Yveltal, and then he gets to do a Pitch Black Spear, does 60 damage to that bench Shaman EX that already had 60 damage done to it, and that means a KO, prizes 5 and 6, and we move on to Game 2. And... I should say, actually, at this point, as we're between games, huge thank you to everyone at Athena Games, quickly becoming one of my favourite venues in the UK. Lovely people, very accommodating, set up an extra room for us, out the back, popped a judge out there for every game. They just couldn't, literally, and I mean that in the proper sense of the word, not in the stupid new dictionary definition, which also means figuratively, literally could not have been any more helpful. And, of course, thank you to Adam and to Nate for agreeing to be on stream. Second time Adam's been on stream. And like I say, both of these guys, I talked before about the game I had with Adam in this tournament. Very, very interesting game. Very fun game. Really fun game. Just sat and chatted for about an hour, which was a lot of fun. Nath didn't have the pleasure of playing him in this particular tournament, but I know Nath. I know his dad. I've played Nath several times. Also a lovely, lovely chap. Recently aged up from seniors. But as I was chatting about in my previous game, this is something that we see from the good seniors like Nath. When they age up, they don't tend to miss a beat. They tend to carry on being good. Corey Kirkham, another example of a UK senior who recently aged up and is doing very well indeed. I'm not 100% sure if Nate's got his Worlds invite or not this year, but I can tell you if he hasn't got his Worlds invite, he is very, very close. He's a very good player, as is Adam, so we're getting to see some good players with some interesting decks here. And I know we've seen a few Yveltal decks on stream over Blackpool and over this tournament, but as I described in my Dark Deck video, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way we are at the moment. Especially in the expanded format, these Dark Decks are just good. Just too good, to be perfectly honest. So, unfortunately, these things happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's the way things tend to be. Hey-ho. And if you got the Frank Turner reference there, I like you just a little bit more. So we saw in the previous game how this matchup is going to go. Nathan is going to be fighting to get energy on the field and going for KOs. Maybe using Pitch Black Spear to take a cheeky Shaman KO, or maybe just going against those Seismitoads. And Adam is going to be playing Keep Away. He's got Team Flare, Grunt, Zerosic, Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, and Slowking. And he is... Double Lone Jirachi start. And that's what it's really going to come down to this game. And especially with the trainer look, it almost kind of turns into a solitaire game for Adam. And it basically comes down to, can Adam get rid of all of Nath's energy? Because if Adam can get rid of all the energy, it doesn't matter what Nath does, Nath will lose. And if Adam can't get rid of all the energy and Nath can keep energy on the field, his attacks do an awful lot more damage. Now, we saw a very bad start from Adam there. He started Lone Jirachi. Of course, Jirachi has an ability that allows you to search for a supporter and then play it. So if Adam had started with a Slowpoke or a Shaman or a Seismitoad, and a Jirachi. Then he leaves the other one active and he goes ahead and uses a Jirachi. But he doesn't, so the Jirachi stays in the active, and all he did there, he couldn't afford to attach a DCE. All he did was just play a laser and pass. Now, he's got that Scoop Up Cyclone Ace Spec in his hand. So if Adam were to draw into any other Pokemon, or an Ultra Ball, even a Dive Ball, because I know he plays one or two of those, then what he'd actually be able to do is bench the basic, play the Dive Ball, play the Scoop Up Cyclone, pick up the Jirachi and play it down again. Now, there's an Ultra Ball, so that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, he's got two options. He could go for a Shaman here, but I imagine he'll go for a Seismitoad. And this could be the game here, ladies and gentlemen. He's got the scoop. Now, he's got to go for a Seismitoad here. Now, does he got a DCE in hand? That's the question. What he can do here is bench the Seismitoad, play Scoop Up Cyclone, and that will actually do two things. Firstly, it will get Jirachi out of the active so that Seismitoad can go into the active. And secondly, it will put Jirachi into Adam's hand so that he can play it and go ahead and go for a supporter, probably a Sycamore. Now, I say Seismitoad, Adam's got a Hooper, so he's going to go for a Toad and a Shaman and possibly a Keldeo here. Doesn't need a Keldeo because he's got that Scoop Up Cyclone. Now, Adam here needs, well, is it the combination of things that could do it? A DCE and a Burbank City Gym would get the win. Or a DCE with a Muscle Band will get the win. So just he's got the win here. No, he hasn't. I'm lying to you, ladies and gentlemen. He still needs a Burbank City Gym. Because as it stands at the moment, okay, he's going to... now here is a decision, ladies and gentlemen. He's got one of his 4 precious DCEs in his hand. So does he search for a Juniper, waste a DCE, but give him a better chance of hitting that Burbank City Gym and the win? Or does he go for an N, whereby if he whiffs the Burbank City Gym, he's giving Nath a new hand, and he knows Nath's got nothing. So he goes for the Sycamore. He's getting rid of a DCE, which is fairly brutal. All he needs is a Burbank City Gym for the win. He doesn't have it yet. Now, did I see a double Puzzle of Time in his hand there? Because if he has got a double Puzzle of Time, he can use them to grab any 2 cards from his discard pile. He can grab a DCE, and he can also grab a Scoop Up Cyclone to reuse that Shaman to draw more cards. He does, so he's got to go DCE Scoop Up Cyclone here. Or he doesn't have to go DCE, because then that's 1 less card drawn with Shaman. Okay, now he has still got 2 other Puzzle of Times, but of course those... okay, I see what he's doing there. So, by not getting the DCE, he now gets to draw 6 cards with Shaman, rather than, I don't know, like 3 or 4. If he hits a Burbank City Gym, ladies and gentlemen, this is over. One more. Oh, no, that's... Oh, my goodness. Now, I don't know how many Burbank he plays, but he doesn't hit it. Now, if Nath doesn't draw anything here, it's still irrelevant, because that Jirachi will be on 80 damage and will be poisoned. So if Nath doesn't draw another basic, then that Jirachi will be knocked out by poison going into Adam's turn, and it's a moot point anyway. But unfortunately, Adam there, he digs, he doesn't hit the Burbank City Gym. So we're on 80 damage total. What's his top deck? It is a Lysander. So there's nothing he's got anyway, and... You saw there, Adam took the risky play. He went for the Juniper rather than the N, and it paid off. Now, we don't know for certain what he would have drawn off the N, because he would have shuffled his hand in and drawn 6, rather than discarded his hand and drawn 7. So maybe playing an N would have got him the Burbank City Gym. But he went for the Juniper. It was risky, because it meant that he had to get rid of one of his 4 DCEs, and we know that they are a premium in a Seismitoad deck that only plays 4 DCEs. However, by not playing the N, he left Nath with his same unplayable hand. And his theory was, look, even if I whiff the Burbank City Gym, it's not the end of the world, because Nath still has nothing. And unless Nath top decks his way out of it, I'm okay here. Now, another thing that was at play there was that that Crushing Hammer Tails was actually quite big. Because with a Crushing Hammer Heads, he would have forced Nath to have, or to waste an energy retreating the Jirachi, even if he had drawn into another basic, or else give Adam 2 prizes. And of course, that Jirachi, for a while at least, unless Nath hits something like an AZ, would have been sitting on the bench. So Adam could always have played a Lysander, dragged it into the active, and done a Quaking Punch to take 2 prizes. But that's all a moot point. Of course, Adam won game 2. So we're at 1 game all. We're going into game 3. Here's the crucial thing. Nath gets to go first. And if you can be the person who is going first, going into game 3, that is usually a very nice advantage indeed. So the game, like I've said a couple of times, it comes down to Adam's ability to get rid of energy. And I'm sorry to make it look like I'm oversimplifying the game, but that really is it. As long as, I mean, really, it comes down almost to a solitaire-style game on Adam's part. If he can get rid of all Nath's energy, as I keep saying, it makes no real difference what Nath does. He doesn't have any good 1-energy attackers. The only 1-energy attacker he's got is the Oblivion Wing Yveltal, and he only does 30 for 1 energy. And if Adam keeps hitting his Crushing Hammer / Slowking, that's going to be irrelevant as well, because that Oblivion Wing is not going to be done 6 times to get a KO. So we see a Battle Compressor coming down here, couple of energy and a Juniper. Now that's a risky proposition. It's a very risky proposition, in fact. Because in a normal matchup, you want 2 Dark Energy in the discard straight away. That's not even a question. You get 2 Dark Energy in the discard, and then as soon as you draw into a Dark Patch, assuming, of course, that you have a Dark Pokemon on the bench, you can play your Dark Patch, attack that Dark Energy to the bench, and off you go. Job's a good one. However, Nath has no Dark Energy on Dark Pokemon on the bench, and he has no Dark Patch. So if he whiffs using a Dark Patch this turn, and then Adam goes ahead and... Okay, so he's got something here. He can grab a Shaman. If Nath doesn't use Dark Patch this turn, and Adam goes ahead and gets the Trainer Lock on his first turn, then all Nath's really done is dump a couple of energy into the discard pile, and of course, he needs his energy. So if Nath whiffs the Dark Patch here, and Adam gets a Trainer Lock next turn, Nath's just dumped a couple of energy in the discard pile, and Adam is sitting there, presumably cackling not unlike some kind of madman, because Nath has made his job easier for him. Now, having said all of that, Nath knows what he needs to do to win. And Nath is not a stupid man. He is a very clever man, in fact. And what he's doing here is basically saying, look, the more energy I can get on the field faster, the faster I can do that, the better chance I have of winning. It's paid off beautifully. And Nath knew what it's now again. As I always say in these videos, I don't know what their hand is. They know what their hand is far better than I. So Nath, I can only assume, is going to computer search for a Dark Patch. Yeah, there we go. Which means he gets a double Dark Patch, which means it has paid off handsomely. He gets an extra 2 energy attachments. And in a game where it's going to largely come down to how much energy you can get and keep on the field, this is incredibly useful. Now, we also see a VS Seeker in Nath's hand, and I believe... Now, I know he's got both the Archeops and the Gallade in his discard pile, but he's not actually going to be able to grab a Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick because he's got a full bench, which is a little bit of a shame. So he's going to have to just grab a Juniper here. If he didn't have a full bench, one would be tempted to try and get a Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick going next turn, although it depends what his other card in his hand is. And even then, if he were to top deck something like a Pokemon, he couldn't play it on the bench. And even after all of that, you can't Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick and Archeops onto the bench when you've got a full bench. But Nace basically decided here, you know what, I don't really need Archeops in this matchup. There we go. So, Adam goes first here, and we know what Adam needs to do. He needs to get a Toad with a DCE, which he's got. He needs to get a size... Oh, that's just upsetting. When you use a Puzzle of Time, and you see that there's another Puzzle of Time straight away there. Because, of course, now that means he's guaranteed to only have one double Puzzle of Time this game. He wants to get a Crushing Hammer on that Yveltal in the active, and he wants to get that Mewtwo out of the active. Now, talking about Dark Patch on Naif's turn, of course, there is the possibility that Naif can just use Oblivion Wing to reattach those Dark Energy from the discard pile, but let's not forget, Adam tried that last turn. Oh, sorry, Naif tried that in game 1, and it didn't always really work. Combination of Crushing Hammer and Slowking made Oblivion Wing Yveltal less effective. And as we see at the moment, there is no Oblivion Wing Yveltal on the bench. So make no... Oh, there we see the scoop up Cyclone, gets the Mewtwo out the active, gets the Toad up. So make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. Naif was going for Dark Patch. It was a risky play, and it paid off spectacularly. Is that Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick in his hand? He's never going to get it. Never mind. It's a moot point anyway. He gets the DCE on that Yveltal, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely crucial. Now we see a Reverse Valley going down, so he gets to do... Oh no, it is! He does play Parallel City. I thought I was seeing things in Game 1. He does play a Parallel City, so my apologies. So he plays a Parallel City, he puts his bench down to 3. Why would he play Parallel City and put his own bench down to 3? Because when you play against Toad, Toad is a water Pokemon. And what Parallel City does to the other side of the field is it reduces damage done by 20 from certain types of Pokemon, including, but not limited to, water Pokemon. So now... it's water, grass, and fire if you're interested. Now it means that Seismitoad is using Quaking Punch for a whopping 10 damage. Which means that Naif has more time to get energy onto the field, more time to chuck a 0 energy Pokemon in the active while he tries to get some energy on the bench, hoping that Adam whiffs his hammers. And Naif can build up energy. Now, we already see 2 energy on that bench to Yveltal EX. Yveltal EX can do quite a lot of damage very quickly with his Evil Ball attack. 20 damage plus 20 for each energy attached to each active Pokemon. So, you're already doing, a 2 energy Yveltal's doing 100 to a Seismitoad. Now, if he gets a 3rd energy next turn on that Yveltal EX, he can actually rush in retreat, do 120 and KO that Seismitoad. Or he can just leave that Fright Night Yveltal in the active and try and KO something like that Jirachi, for instance. Now, the interesting decision from last turn was, do you put the Pitch Black Spear damage on the Shaman or the Jirachi? I like Naif's play, and we see the Slowking flip here. It's fairly important. It's ahead. Oh, that DCE goes away, but onto the... Okay, fair enough. Again, just presumably trying to stop that Caldeo retreating. And actually, we saw Caldeo takes a DCE and 1 other energy to attack, whereas Darkrai takes a DCE and 2 Dark, and there's always a possibility that Adam can get a Head Ringer on there. So weirdly, that Caldeo is facing more damage. He needs 1 more energy to get the KO, and he's got it. Now, the reason why the Pitch Black Spear damage on the Jirachi is so good is that both the Jirachi and the Shaman would be KO'd by the residual damage from a second Pitch Black Spear. But the Jirachi having only 90 HP means he will also be KO'd by the residual damage from a Night Spear from a Darkrai. So that's pretty cool. So we see the KO here, and we see a Hex Maniac coming down. That turns off all abilities on both sides of the field until the end of Adam's turn. Oh, he's made us... Whoa, that was a really good play. I've just realised quite how good that play was. Because not only did it turn off Slowking, which of course in itself is very, very useful, but it meant that Adam couldn't rush in and retreat with a Keldeo. You saw him go to put the float stone on the Keldeo there and then go, oh, whoopsie, I can't rush in and retreat. Which means that Hooper being in the active, the only way to get that Hooper out of the active is to attach a float stone to the Hooper and retreat. So maybe after the Hex Maniac goes down, maybe there's an argument that Adam should have put the Keldeo into the active. Oh no. Oh, that's a good play. Oh. Okay, there's still a good play. He uses a Skylar to grab a Puzzle of Time, combines it with a Puzzle of Time in his hand to search his deck for any 2 cards. A discard pile for any 2 cards. He grabs a DCE and a Scoop Up Cyclone, which means that if we don't see a one-hit KO here, he's currently doing 140. No, 120, sorry. So we could only have done 160 with that DCE. But we see here he's going to get a KO on that Jirachi. And now he's going to basically force Adam to use that Scoop Up Cyclone, but honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I think this game is as good as over. That Yveltal on the bench is just got too much energy on. Adam has not been able to get rid of that energy. And we've seen some heads on those Slowking flips. But it's all... And we see another heads there. But it's all basically irrelevant at this stage. And what I love about that, it's still going to take 2 dark energy on that Darkrai to get the... Although actually I said earlier, with a DCE and 2 dark, you could do Night Spear even with a Headringer on the Darkrai. So we do see a Scoop Up Cyclone here, and we see a Laser, and it's a Tails. But I'm wondering if Adam has realised that he's not going to be able to get that Hooper out of the active. Because that Hooper's got a Float Stone attached, and you can't... Float Stone does nothing with Fright Night Yveltal in the active. I don't think that Hex Maniac was played by Nath last turn. It could have been. I'm not 100% sure. I know he played it the turn before. Now, with the energy on the Yveltal, and there goes a Verbank City Gym. So now Toad does a little bit more damage. And Nate's just pointing out, Fright Night Yveltal, and I think Adam missed that. I mean, just really good play. And Nate is playing this matchup superbly well. And now if he's got a Lysander here... No, he doesn't quite have the KO. He can only do 90. So what he really wants... Yeah, what he really wants is a DCE for that Yveltal. That would be lovely, but I don't think he has one. So, honestly here, I think he probably has to not... Oh, actually, what that did do, and it hasn't worked out, unfortunately, it actually turned off Trainer Lock for a turn. Trainer Lock is going, ladies and gentlemen. Trainer Lock is off. But Nath only has a Float Stone. So it's very much irrelevant. So Adam is forced to use an AZ to pick up that Hooper there. And that's something that this Friday Night Yveltal allows you to do, to kind of stick your opponent's Pokemon in the active because they can't use Float Stone. So we do see a KO there from Adam. He takes a prize. Now, as it stands at the moment, we're doing 120 with the Yveltal. 5 energy is 100, plus the 20 base is 120. Is that double Dark Patch DCE? Oh, if he wasn't Trainer Locked this turn, he'd have the game. But he is Trainer Locked. It's a moot point. Oh, I like this. I like this. So we see a Y Cyclone for 90, and now he's got 2 energy on his active Yveltal, and now he's got more than enough energy on his bench Darkrai. Now, that means that next turn, if that Yveltal's got 2 energy on, he can do 100, get the KO. If he doesn't have 2 energy on, then Nath can rush in, retreat, And then Darkrai can come up and do Night Spear for 90 and get the KO. We'd have to see a heads on Slowking, moving the energy onto Keldeo, and then a heads on Crushing Hammer. Oh, we got the first part. We would need to see a heads on Crushing Hammer here, or a Hex Maniac. Because that Yveltal has a retreat cost of 2. Now, it has free retreat because of Darkrai's ability, or Keldeo can rush in retreat, but a Hex Maniac would stop both of those. Oh, and there we do see the Hex Maniac, so Adam's seen it as well. But I'm not entirely sure. Oh, okay, and that's game. He attaches a DCE to Yveltal. That allows him to manually retreat. Night Spear for 90. Onto the Toad, gets the win. So a very interesting game there. We saw all kinds of stuff there. We saw Nath play it very well. We saw Adam try valiantly, but he could not get the energy away from Nath fast enough. We saw that beautiful double Dark Patch on turn 1. It was a risky play, but oh my goodness, it worked out quite nicely. So you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you click that like button. I will give you a moment. Again, by now, if you have not clicked like, I can only assume it's because you hate me on a personal level, and I'm a little bit upset. Gonna be honest, that hurts. That hurts my feelings. It hurts my insides. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so, and if you have done so, get a friend to subscribe on your behalf. It will make me happy. And stick a comment down below if you want to call me or either player an idiot, or heaven forbid, say something nice, or ask for a deck list, or start a conversation. Anything's good by me, just as long as you're watching. And of course, by far the most important thing, look after yourself until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.